Cheers, Kampai, Salute, Gambe, Skål, Prost. Hello, and welcome to the Drunken Storytellers podcast, where I tell folk tales and folklore from around the globe. So sit back, grab yourself a drink, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of The Drunken Storyteller, where me, your erstwhile host, drinks and tells folk tales, myths and legends from all over the world. There will be some waffling and inexpert random commentary and discussions with myself and my two hosts that I've got here, Humphrey Boggart and Krampus. And I will try to regale you with stories that I have chosen from throughout the world. I've researched them, put them together in a rather haphazard way to create this little podcast. Today's episode, to go with the theme of blood in a way, I have chosen myself a nice little red wine to have a tipple. I was thinking of maybe having some Bloody Marys, but that's a little bit expensive, so I'm not. This doesn't seem to be working. Something seems to have gone wrong. Ooh, maybe not. Just my computer being strange. Oh well, I apologise. Back on it. So yeah, I was thinking of having Bloody Marys, as I say, but again, not wanting to buy expensive alcohol because I'm a cheapskate. I just went for a bottle of red wine. But me being also the classy little man that I am, I'm drinking it out of a gin glass. It's quite a large glass, so it should last me for most of this. So, what will we be talking about today? What stories will I be talking about today? I am going to be looking at, well, if you've kind of seen the title of this, it's going to be vampires. Yay! Mwahahaha! Evilness and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be telling tales of horror and blood-drinking nasties from two different regions of the world. Kind of regions that we wouldn't usually associate vampires with, I suppose. So the first tale I'm going to tell is kind of funny in a way, and it's a tale that some believe is one of the origins of the story of Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is a somewhat controversial idea, I'm guessing, as it has nothing at all to do with Vlad the Impaler or anything to do with Transylvania and Hungary and that area of the world. The second one involves a little bit of bouncing, but to find out more about that, you'll, as always, need to listen to the podcast version of this rather than the YouTube version. So, or if you're actually on the podcast now, just ignore that point because it'll come up after the first story. So, where am I? I've got a little bit of a new setup at the moment, so I'm kind of trying to work out how to do this. So, what are we now? So anyway, I'm going to do a little bit of a waffle. First, I'm going to try and keep this episode shorter as well, as my last couple of episodes have run up to like 50 odd minutes or so. I'm going to try and keep them a little bit shorter. So, waffle time. So this is only going to be a very, very short bit of something that I found quite interesting when I was looking up vampires. It's kind of like where the term vampire actually comes from. The word itself is not that old, as far as I can tell. And it stems from Eastern European roots, surprise, surprise, as that's kind of where we expect vampires to be from. So it's thought to come from multiple Slovak or Slavok variants, possibly thought to mean witch. So you've got, and I'm going to apologise about the pronunciation of these are old Eastern European words that I don't actually know how to pronounce, but I've got them written down here, so I'm going to attempt it. So you've got the Polish Vypyr, the Belarusian Vypyr, the Ukrainian and Russian Ypyr, the Bulgarian vapir, and the Hungarian and Serbian vampir. There's also the Old Church Slavonic, or Puli. So I apologise about these. I don't speak any Slavic or Cyrillic languages or have any knowledge in how to pronounce them, so that's just me guessing how to pronounce them. So I apologise to anybody out there who has heard those and has just screamed at their podcast and gone, "No, that's awful, please stop butchering our language." So I apologise about that. But yeah, so from these we get the German word vampire, which is very similar to the Hungarian and Serbian word vampire. And so it then comes to England via France to become the word that we know of vampire. The first apparent, and this is me saying apparently, and I say it's a lot in here, apparently the first recorded use of the word in English is from the 16th century. I thought it was probably going to be the 17th or 18th century, so that date might be wrong. From a 16th, in quotation marks, police report in Austria, where there's some local villagers who complain about a vampire sucking their blood, I guess. So, but there are tales of blood-sucking, night-walking undead plague bringers and things all over the British Isles, dating back to at least the 12th century. So, even though the kind of modern idea of a vampire comes from Eastern Europe, we do have these things within the UK, and there are some really kind of cool vampire stories and kind of urban tales, well, not urban tales, but myths and lore and folklore and stuff about them within the UK. And I'll look at more of those kind of later, maybe on other episodes. But today, oh no, hang on. No, so today, no, we're not doing that bit. The term, so what the term actually originally meant. So apparently in the 18th century, so 1700s or so, the term apparently meant person who preys on another. So vampires do prey on other people. They prey on other people to drink their blood, and I'm guessing it kind of all kind of evolved from that. But as I say, this is very inexpert, and this was me kind of looking at things. I've not had much time to plan this week, so that's why this is kind of a bit rushed and a bit weird and a bit odd, and maybe some of the things that I'm saying are not exactly true. So I do apologise if they are complete and utter crap. Please do let me know, and I will endeavour to correct it in another episode and let people know that I'm an idiot. So, but I think you can already guess that I'm an idiot because I'm doing this, and yeah, well, but then what does that say about you for listening? Anyway, drink. I don't know whether this is coming through as ASMR drinking or not. Whoa. Blood. So, right. On with our first tale. So the first tale is actually a story from Ireland. So I am keeping it in the British Isles for the first story. We're going over across the waters to Ireland. And it comes from a 19th century book called The Origin and History of Irish Names of Places by A. P. Joyce. So this sounds like an absolutely thrilling book to read. Sounds like the kind of thing you'd want to have just before you go to bed, because it sounds so enthralling it'll just put you to sleep. But yeah, the book, the bit in the book is actually not that long. It's only a couple of lines long, and doesn't talk about the blood drinking nature of this creature that the story goes on about. But if you kind of delve a little bit deeper, there's more kind of the traditional spoken word versions of the folktale floating around now on the internet, where people have, I suppose, embellished the story and taken it from their ancestors and things and retold the story. And this is that story. I've obviously embellished it in my own way, as I do with most of these stories, and made it a little bit weirder. And I draw my story from these kind of spoken word tales rather than the book. And so here we go. This is the story of Abhartach, the Irish dwarf vampire. And yeah, that's a thing. So, I apologise about my pronunciation again, because Abhartach is an old Irish word that apparently means dwarf. And if I'm saying that wrong, I apologise, and there's other Irish words in here that I'm going to get wrong, so I apologise about that as well. I should probably stop trying to say words that I can't. Anyway, on with the story about an Irish dwarf vampire. There was once an evil chieftain who ruled the lands in the 5th century. His name was Abhartach, a practitioner of the dark arts, reportedly small of stature, and not particularly popular. To be honest, he was a bit of a git by all accounts. Not just an evil man, he was also jealous, suspecting his wife of having an affair. So, doing what any self-respecting evil wizard chieftain would do, he spied on her. So, one night he climbed out of his window of his castle to try and snoop around the corner to her window and catch her in the act of said affair. Now, being, I suppose, of a smaller stature and probably a little bit drunk, Dutch courage and all that, as you saw in the last episode about dragons, like, people like to have a bit of a drink before they do something silly, like fight a dragon or go look in on your wife having an affair. He slipped on the wet wall and promptly fell to his death. What a shame. Evil wizard man died. Ah, sad, sad listener. The following morning, his body was found by his people, who had, let's say they had a little dance and a little jig over his corpse. They were a little bit happy about it. Obviously, they did first check to make sure that he was actually dead. Maybe taking a bit of an extra poking with a sharp sword or something, just to kind of, make sure it's like, oi, Abhartach, you are dead, aren't you? You're not going to get up and be more of an arsehole to us, are you? Honest? No, you are dead. Cool, right. So once the celebrations had died down, and they kind of realised, actually, no, he was their lord, so maybe we should bury him and give him a little bit of respect. So yeah, they buried him standing upright in his grave, as befitted his status. So yeah, he was standing in his grave, because that's apparently what you do to village chieftains in those days. So, unfortunately, for the villagers, all was not as it seemed. Obviously, because he was an evil wizard chieftain bloke. Never going to be as what he seems. For although Abhartach was dead and buried, he decided to come back and pay the village a visit the day after his burial. He marched up to the villagers, demanding they fill his bowl with their own fresh blood, drawn from their wrists, so that he might drink and be healthy. Through sheer terror, the people obeyed, though some did manage to contact another local chieftain by the name of Catherine, and begged him to slay the evil blood drinker. Now, I've written down a name here, and it's in Gaelic. I don't know what it means, but it was in those sources that I found, and I'm not going to say it. It's one of those things where you've got M's and B's next to each other, and I don't know the pronunciation of those, so I'm not going to say that. But yeah, so the villagers had buried their lord, and then he decided to just kind of waltz up the next day, going, "No, I'm not dead, but because you buried me, I want to drink your blood. Fill up this bowl for me so I can have a drink." Obviously, that would be a bit scary. And so yeah, they went off and spoke to this bloke called Catherine. So Catherine agreed and waited in ambush for Abhartach. He slew the evil vampire dwarf and buried him upright again, as you would do. Nothing wrong with trying again, is there? So, unfortunately, however, vampires are tenacious little buggers, especially this one, and as we know, they're always hungry. So, the very next day, he was back in his village again with his bowls, asking them to be filled with blood to sate his hunger. Catherine was obviously not happy about this. He'd just killed the bloke and buried him. So how dare the man he'd just killed come back to life and ask for more blood? It's like, dude, you're dead. Stay dead. So once again, he went out and he killed the evil vampire dwarf wizard and buried him in a remote grave, again, standing upright. Because he's still a chieftain, so he still deserves that little bit of respect. Not quite sure why you give people respect for this, but whatever. But yeah, guess what? Rule of 3. So he's not dead yet. Next morning comes around, comes up calling. Somehow he's managed to trudge from this faraway grave over to the village again, and yup, he's still hungry. He still had his bowl with him, and he's still asking for blood. Now, Catherine, not the smartest stick in the box. Obviously, he's just tried the same thing like twice and failed miserably. He was a bit confused and didn't really know what to do. So he called to a local saint by the name of Iohan for some help. Obviously, because that's what you do. It's like, well, I can't do it, so these religious blokes, they probably know what they're on about, dealing with evil on a regular basis. So, yeah, he went to Iohan. Iohan listened to the tale of this evil vampire dwarf wizard blokey thing, and he contemplated and he prayed and he deliberated on what to do. After some time, he turned to Catherine and had some advice for him. Nah, due to him already being dead and the like, a normal respectful burial won't work. He can just climb right back out of that grave. Also, how do you kill a thing that is already dead? Dead things can't be killed, what on account of them being dead and all. So, what you got to do is this. He leaned in and whispered to Catherine in a decidedly conspiratorial tone and said, "You got to stab him in the heart with a sword made from the yew tree. Bury him upside down, making sure to cover his body with branches of the ash and thorns. Once the grave is full, place a large heavy stone slab over it, one so heavy that he won't be able to lift it. And that there should keep him away from ever asking for that red breakfast again." So Catherine, being the good leader that he is, the good chieftain he is, he took on this advice and he went back to the village and lo and behold, guess who was there? Yeah, Abhartach was there. Abhartach, was there. And so Catherine did as was instructed. Got himself a sword made from the yew tree, stabbed it into Abhartach, buried him upside down, covered him in branches and things, and then put a massive bloody slab of stone on top of him. And, well, it worked. Abhartach was buried and no more. Now, apparently, there is a place in Ireland called Ghaleckt Abhartach, or Slaughtabhartach, a memorial stone for the cruel chieftain. It is found between the towns of Garva and Dungiven in a region called Glen Nullin, or the Glen of the Eagle. Apparently you can actually visit this grave, but you should be a little bit aware of, be a little bit wary around it, because there have been some reported incidents apparently of people having rather bad experiences there. Couldn't find anything on what these were, but well, it could be cold, wet, rainy days. You're walking over a big slab of stone and you fall over, or you never know, you could be attacked by an evil vampire dwarf wizard. Yeah. Anyway, so that's it for this video live part of the episode. Please do like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment and let me know what you think. So you can find myself, I'm over on the Twitter sphere at The Drunken Store 1. So The Drunken Store, and the store is STOR1. I'm on Facebook as The Drunken Storyteller. Got myself a little business page there. You can email me at thedrunkenstorytelleruk@gmail.com. Please do send suggestions and topics for stories and things for me to talk about. I did run a little poll for this episode whether I was going to do giants or vampires. I had 2 people respond and both said vampires. If one had said vampires and one had said giants, I'd have probably split the stories. But I didn't, so... please do follow me on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and recommend me to friends and things, and leave reviews and stuff, because I do like doing this. I know I don't get many listeners, but it's kind of fun. You can also go check out my other podcast over at Darker Days Radio, where I talk about horror-themed RPGs, World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness, and do some stuff with the Warhammer RPGs as well. We've just restarted our Enemy Within campaign over at Gehenna Gaming on Twitch, and the first 2 episodes are now on YouTube, and hopefully more will be coming up soon onto YouTube. Also soon, end of February, is going to be what's known as the Virtual HorrorCon that Gehenna Gaming are going to be holding in conjunction with Drive-Thru RPG and Onyx Path Publishing, and another company I've forgotten the name of. I will be running 3 games. I'm not sure when or how yet. I'm going to be doing a game of Vesson, which is a Nordic horror RPG. It's very, very folk horror. It's very, very cool. I will be running a game of Chronicles of Darkness that's going to be based in Manchester, a God Machine Chronicle, so a little bit of kind of cyber body horror stuff, and a Warhammer Fantasy game yet that I still haven't thought about and I need to plan a bit more. So, but you can find all the details of that over at www.virtualhorrorcon.com. So, I hope you enjoyed this little story today. As I say, this was a bit of a shorter one for the video, and the second part of the story is also going to be a little bit shorter as well. I just thought doing 50-minute episodes each week was a bit much, so I thought, and I also just kind of didn't have time to prep stuff. So anyway, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening or whatever it is whenever you're watching this. Goodbye. Cheers! Kampai, salute, gambe, skål, prost. Hello, and welcome to the Drunken Storytellers podcast, where I tell folktales and folklore from around the globe. So sit back, grab yourself a drink, and enjoy the show.